Hey everyone, so now we're going to do the same thing for the story button. So before we begin, for those of you who have the character select, just fairly quickly change the when I receive start game to play game instead for both your info button and your info screen, only because you want to make sure that it actually hides uh, when the selection screen is gone and not when the select button is clicked. So what I mean by this is if you were to keep it the same when your info screen hides after you click on it, when your intro screen hides after you click on it, you still have to click on the player and it's still going to block it. So because we don't want those buttons there, we actually want to hide it when the intro screen is clicked, not when the select button is clicked. So for that reason, you're just going to change it to play games. Other than that, the next steps are going to be fairly simple. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate my info button, and I'm going to rename this story button. Okay. Next, I'm going to change this broadcast to new message and call it story. And click on OK. Then I'm going to change this to a new message to show story button and click OK. And then the last thing I want to go ahead and do is I want to make sure that the story button shows up somewhere else. So really quickly, I'm just going to go into costumes. I'm going to zoom out and click on the green flag. I'm going to use the selection tool to select the info button. I'm going to move this down just about where I want it. I'm going to use the text tool and change this to story. And I'm going to move it a little bit so that it's centered. You guys can obviously change the actual color of the button as well and the actual font of it and do other things to it. This is again just to show you a quick way of doing it, but you guys can take your time when it comes to art just so that it looks a little bit better than actually what I have. So now that I have this, the next thing that I want to go ahead and do is add the story screen. So I'm going to duplicate the info screen. I'm going to now rename this story screen. And I'm going to change a couple of things for it. So this info, we already have the story version of it, so we're going to swap that out. And instead of show info button, we're going to change this to show story button. And those should be the only changes you need. Other than that, instead of costume, obviously you're going to change this how to play to story. And then you guys can go ahead and just write the story about your game. It's always nice to have that for the players to kind of understand what's going on and what's happening in your story, to have that as an option. So now if we test everything out and click on the green flag, so I'm going to click on stop, click on the green flag, I click on info, I see how to play, I can go back, and it goes back here, I can click on story. I see here that I might have to readjust where it is. I'm going to use my selection tool. I'm going to go ahead and move this exactly where I want it. I'm going to go back into code, and then go back, and then here it is. When I click on play, it's going to hide it. Because this hides it very slowly, because what happens is on our intro screen, we don't receive this broadcast play game until it's completely hidden. So what we can actually go ahead and do is, as an option for those of you who maybe want to hide it immediately, you can go ahead and go into the Yellow Events tab, and you can go ahead and then broadcast. We're going to do broadcast hide. And then for our buttons, we can go ahead and add when I receive. Oh, no, we don't want to use broadcast hide, actually. what we want to do is name it completely differently. So we're going to new message, hide buttons, and click OK. And now we're going to go to our buttons and use when I receive hide buttons. We're going to go ahead and hide them. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the other button as well. That looks like it won't work, so I'm just going to go ahead and add it myself. And receive hide buttons. I'm going to go ahead and hide. So now if we test this out, click on play, it automatically hides, so it looks a little bit better that way. So again, all I did was in the intro screen, I added a broadcast before this repeat 10 and added hide buttons as the broadcast and added it to each of the buttons as well. Okay, so now that we've done that, this is pretty much it. I'll show you guys on the next video couple of small little tweaks that you guys can do to these info button and story button that you guys can do as options. Again, you don't have to do this. This is just optional in case you guys want to tweak it a little bit more to work for your game.